Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Dotterer, and I am here in North America, and it's afternoon, and I think it's afternoon in California, but it's not afternoon in Hawaii. And I just got a message from my friend Kalana Park. Hello, Kalana. Mahalo. So it's still morning in Hawaii, and it's evening time in Europe. In Africa, it's evening time, and in Asia, it's probably early morning. So, any event, we have a great show for you. As you can see, this backdrop that I have here, CONNECTdmv is an organization that was started by my friend Tom Kohn, and he's going to be our special guest. We were classmates in college, and he has an amazing background, and he's going to share his journey with us today. But before we get started, we always like to, with On the Dot, we like to recognize our sponsor. And today it's a company called Modere. And I want to thank my good friend Trudy Stoner for introducing me to Modere. She shared it with me last week, and it is an amazing company. And I want to thank her sponsor, Dr. Erin Oaksel, and her husband Garth, who are on their way to Mexico for a little vacay. And there's amazing sponsor, Marina Simone, who's down in Florida. And Marina is a superstar. I really want to thank Marina because she's been coaching me the past couple days. And I've been in the sharing economy, or as we call social sharing economy, for a long time. And she is teaching me things that I didn't even know. So thank you, Marina. With that, I also want to wish happy birthday to some friends of mine. I want to wish happy birthday to Coach Savage, Chad Savage, who's the recruiting coordinator and wide receiver coach at Colorado State. You'll be hearing about him. He kind of reminds me of Bill Belichick when Coach Belichick was a young coach. So remember that name, Coach Chad Savage. Is his birthday today. Happy birthday, Coach. And happy birthday to fellow Stanford running back Scott Eshelman, who after college went on and has done amazing things in the business world. So happy birthday to Scott. And happy birthday to my friend who used to work with the Oakland Athletics, Jim Bloom, who I think now lives in Chicago. Happy birthday, Jim. And I think the Oakland Athletics, it seems like they might be moving to Las Vegas. So should be interesting to see. And happy birthday to my former Los Angeles Raiders teammate, amazing linebacker from the University of Nebraska, two-time Super Bowl champion, Bob Nelson, who's in Minnesota and runs a ice cream company, I believe. So happy birthday to Bob Nelson, great linebacker for us and helped us win the Super Bowl back in 1984. And tomorrow it's Tank Williams' birthday. Happy birthday, Tank. Tank was a great Stanford footballer and also played many years in the National Football League. Happy birthday, Tank, tomorrow. And it is Mike Tyson's birthday tomorrow as well. So happy birthday tomorrow to Mike Tyson, the great boxer. Amazing that I don't have any birthdays for the ladies out there. But if there's anyone out there that I missed that I know and it's your birthday, happy birthday. So we've got about one more minute. Tom is pretty punctual, but let me tell you a little bit about Tom Kohn. Tom and I met at Stanford University, and this must be 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. And Tom, let me just kind of give you his background. He grew up in St. Louis, and that's the gateway to the West. And then after Tom, he came to Stanford and he earned his bachelor's degree in broadcast communication and journalism and also political science. And he was the sports director of the school radio station, which was KZSU. And he covered many of our games in football and in baseball. And then after Stanford, he went and moved to New York City, and that's where I met. I remember running into Tom, and Tom said, "Oh, Mike, this is New York City, probably 1985, 86." And he had a softball team, and he was working for Major League Baseball. And he said, "Mike, why don't you come and play on the softball team?" So I did that, and it was fun to get on the softball team. And I remember meeting a famous actor we had on our team, and maybe you can share with you who we met. Famous actor who played in a movie called 8 Men Out. In any event, let me see if Tom's going to join us here. I'm going to call him. Let's see here. Just make sure these are things, when you're the director and the host and everything, you multitask. And let's see if he's having issues here. Tom Kohn. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to call Tom on his phone. Let's see if he answers. And I've just started because Tom's background is fabulous. I mean, he's got an amazing background. And let's see if I can get him here. Oh, can't get him here. He might be connecting. He's probably trying to connect via Zoom, and we are on StreamYard. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to go and invite again. So I'm going to get the link, and then I'm going to text him. So stand by, everyone, because let's see here. Where is he? Hold on. Let's see. Oh, I think he just joined us. Let's see if he just joined. Yes, he did just join us. Okay. All right, Big Tom. How are you, brother?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Oh, boy, I was getting nervous.
Are we live?
We are live. Yeah, I was going through your illustrious background, and actually you could probably share with our audience better than I can. We got up to, you came out of the gate, the gateway to the West, St. Louis. You went to Stanford. I told them about your KZSU and being the sports director and what you studied, journalism, sports broadcasting, and political science. And then we got into Major League Baseball and meeting you in New York and the softball team. So why don't you just take it over? Because I mentioned to everyone that we had a famous actor on our softball team.
We did, but did you see my jersey, my tribute?
I love that. Thank you.
So,
did you see my tribute to you?
Look at that. Well, though I'm confused, though, I do have a photo of John Elway playing Stanford baseball. And did he at one time also wear 24? Like, did you switch or something? Did you pay him a lot of money for the number, or how did that work?
You know what? It's interesting you brought this up. I will share the story because there might be some John Elway fans out there. Yes, our freshman year, which was 1979, but baseball was 1980.
Yeah.
John, he got number 24. And obviously everyone knows that if you know John Elway, he's number 7. That was his number. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but the reason he was number 7 is one of his heroes was Burt Jones, the quarterback.
No, not Mickey Mantle.
Nope, it was Burt Jones.
Okay. And
so even though we all love Mickey, I mean, who cannot love Mickey? But in any event, for Coach Marcus, it was almost like being part of the Marine boot camp, at Quantico, and Coach Marcus couldn't care less if you're John Elway or you're. It doesn't matter. Here's your jersey. So he gave him 24, and I got number 20, and we had a guy named Mike Toothman. So Mike Toothman had number 7. So he wasn't going to take and Mike Toothman was a class or two ahead of us. Mm-hmm. So Mike Toothman had number 7, and John wanted number 7. So the next year, because John wore number 24 our freshman year, I was 20 and Mike Toothman was 7. The next year, John did a deal with Toothman and with Mike and said, "Hey, Mike, I'll give you you're going to give me number 7, and Dot's going to give you number 20, and I'll give Dot number 24 because he's number 24 in baseball and football." Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a 3-way trade, and there you have it. So sorry for the long-winded.
No, I like that. Well, and because I didn't know this was actually live, so I thought it was like I'll just pop on at 4:00 and you'll be recording it. So I can only imagine you covered 7 minutes just riffing like Mike Dotter knows how to do. which reminds me of a KZSU story. So I was a co-sports director with at KZSU, Stanford's radio station, with Jim Grunberg and Joey Mitchner, and we were doing the USC football game. I say a USC football game at USC, and Jim and I were up like on the third deck of the press box, and you were the star of the game. I think we upset USC. I don't know if that was our junior year or senior year. Must have been our senior year. And Grunberg says to me, we need a star of the game. And Mike was the star of the game. So we know Mike. So I'm going to go down to the field and grab him and bring him all the way back up to the third floor of the press box. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Go ahead and do that. And he wrote me a little note. I literally still have this note. It's kind of scary. I have this note up in my attic. I'm a little bit of a hoarder, and much to my wife's chagrin. And it says, be back in 10 minutes in handwriting on a little piece of paper. And so sure enough, 3 stories down to the USC football field. And of course, you were holding court on the football field, and as you were wont to do. And if anybody was going to eventually have a podcast at this age, many years later, we would vote for you, Mike, that you would have the podcast, because you have the gift of gab, my friend. And so he could not grab you away from all the press, and you just wanted to be in front of the camera, as you should be, because like you were the star of the game. We beat USC. It was a huge upset. And so sure enough, that's when I realized how I would not be a good play-by-play announcer in professional sports, because I had to kill like a half an hour on my own. Like, I just don't like to hear the sound of my own voice that much. And I eventually he never came back. And so I eventually just signed off. Tom Kohn from Los Angeles. Bye-bye.
Well, Tom, I have some amazing elixirs that can help you with your memory, and I don't want to embarrass you, but
okay,
maybe that game,
UCLA.
You know what? And all of my friends out there that went to USC and fight on, they're saying no, there's no way that John Elway did not beat Stanford his senior year, and
okay.
I have to correct you.
Help me out here.
I'm going to help you out. It was in the Palouse, Washington State. That's where that took place. And we beat Washington State, which is not USC Trojans. But I do remember, I don't know if you recall this.
Yes.
You remember our freshman year? Oh, yeah, that's Washington.
That's you.
Right? That's right.
You were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Mike. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that everyone has 15 minutes of fame, or 15 seconds, 15 minutes or whatever. But anyway, the bottom line is, remember our freshman year when we went down to USC and they were ranked #1 in the nation?
You've already pointed out that my memory is really bad, so
okay.
No.
All right. Well, any event, our freshman year, we went down there and we tied USC, and that was like beating USC, because they went that year. USC in 1979, they had Paul McDonald at quarterback. They had Charles White at tailback, who won the Heisman Trophy. Mm-hmm. Marcus Allen at fullback, who won the Heisman Trophy. Ronnie Lott, who's probably the greatest defensive back in all of history. Ricky Ellison, Hobie Brenner. I mean, I could go on and on. Every player on USC went into the National Football League. Mm-hmm. And we had a decent team. We had a quarterback named Turk Schonert.
Of course.
And John was not playing as much his freshman year, because Coach Dowhauer wanted to kind of bring him in gradually. But we went down to USC and we tied them. And USC in 1979, the year before, they had won the national championship. And in 1978 national champion, 1979 they were going to repeat. Well, they went 12-0-1, and the one tie was against Stanford. It was 20, and Alabama with Bear Bryant went 13-0. So that one tie cost USC the national championship. So maybe Tom, you know that tie our freshman year.
Well, can we get Grunberg on the line? I'm going to text him.
We can get Grunberg, and you know, Tom, the purpose of On the Dot is really I'm not supposed to talk much, Tom. So
that's going to be hard to do, Mike.
I know. Well, no, you're prompting me.
I've heard your other interviews. It's hard to, you know.
Well, I just want to commend you. The backdrop that you have was Stanford 24. Thank you. That's honoring 24. And then behind you, if you move a little bit, what's right behind you?
So I've got.
Are those the Cardinals?
I've got the Cardinals. I love their blue jerseys, man. Some people hate their blue jerseys over there, but I just love their blue jerseys. And Chatham, Cape Cod baseball. Used to always go there with my family. So yeah, so this my wife won't let me hang these up officially, like in a frame out elsewhere in the house. So I am in my man cave right now. Yes.
Well, it looks fantastic. That's the best backdrop of anybody that's been on the dot. You get the #1 award. So Tom, I was telling everybody about your amazing background. So you graduate from Stanford with a degree, in broadcasting, journalism, political science. And is that when you got the job with Major League Baseball?
Oh, you know what? Let me show you something. Thanks to Coach Marcus, I got an A in baseball.
Oh, let me zoom on that here.
Yeah. So you can see my other grades not so good, but baseball varsity A, because I did actually try out for the team. I had no business trying out for the team. I was good in St. Louis, Missouri, but Coach Marcus, such a gentleman, said, sure, if you want to try out. I got cut after about 3 weeks, but I got to know you and Bouchel and Aldretti and, just a great John Elway, just a great group of people. So I'm really glad. I remember the day I was cut. Marcus put his arm around me and kind of walked me over to the side, and he was just so nice about it. Like, couldn't have been best way to get cut from a team. But anyway, and these jerseys, man, he just stuck to those jerseys for years and years and years. It's probably like the George Costanza Seinfeld episode where they just didn't breathe, I'm sure, but they had much better material over the years. But he stuck with that polyester until recently, and now we've got cool uniforms again. Or finally, but I like the retro, the old fashioned one. Anyway, I can't remember your question, Mike. What was your question?
Well, no, I want everyone to know, because your background. I mean, you played baseball. That was your passion, baseball, and you played obviously in high school, and then you came to Stanford and you walked on, and it does, that's unbelievable, because just to walk on a college team, and this for any young athletes that are out there. One of the great things about baseball is it doesn't matter how big you are, how fast you are. If you have the heart and the mind, you can do so much with baseball. It is a great sport. And so you were on the field, you were sunken diamond, which is awesome. And then you went up into the booth and you were one of the key announcers for the team.
Well, to play on the St. Louis Cardinals, my favorite team, you first actually have to play maybe in college first. I don't know. So, and that didn't happen either. So the next best thing was stay attached to sports in some way. And I remember I went to there, and there's a long group of alums from Stanford, from KZSU, who went on to amazing things. Mike Tolan did The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. He just did something called The Captain, a documentary at the Tribeca Film Festival on Derek Jeter. Rich Domich was my roommate. He was at MLB, Major League Baseball Productions. Gary Cohen, Grunberg, of course, and he has his own putter company called Seymour. And Andy Brandt used to work at, or maybe still works at ESPN. So anyway, yeah, so I stayed attached to sports by going through KZSU. And then I worked for ABC Sports on the weekends for a grand total of $30 a day, because I knew what I wanted to do with my life, or at least I thought I did. And I wanted to be in sports television. And I am a professor now. So I do tell my students, You know, you got to figure out what you're passionate about and what you're good at. And I feel fortunate that I knew exactly what I wanted to do at a very early age, and I gave it a shot. I actually met Rich Domich, former Stanford KZSU guy, in the parking lot at the 1983 World Series. It was pouring down rain, and my job was to get our producer Chet Forte his hot dogs. There was this Hertz Renovan in the parking lot at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. It was the Orioles against the Phillies, and I'm a kind of social guy, so and I was standing in the rain, and I was upset at myself because I was supposed to come at a different time, and I would have had the job up in the booth with Howard Cosell and Al Michaels doing stats, which I'd had all year long, but I came an hour or so late. It was a misunderstanding. So I had to get the producer hot dogs. But it turned my life around. That stupid mistake of mine turned my life around because in this Hertz Renovan was this total stranger who had all these TV monitors, and I don't know what he was doing. So I wanted to get out of the rain. I wanted to talk to somebody. I was lonely. So I talked to this, hey, how you doing? And he said, hey, how are you? Come on in out of the rain. And so I came in, and he's showing me all these TV monitors that he's recording the World Series on all these different monitors. And oh, look at this. Grunberg just said Washington State. I was wrong. My story from 30 years is totally wrong. All right. By the way, Mike, was Stanford #1 in the country your freshman year? Baseball.
No,
Baseball.
no,
Baseball.
no, no.
Baseball. Baseball.
No, we were at football. We Bill Rod Dower took over for Bill Walsh,
Yeah, we're
and
talking baseball.
I know, but I just have to let people know because my brain, I did get hit in the head in a few too many times. So I'm just gonna go chronologically. So football,
Yeah,
we went 5-5-1 in the one tie, and then in baseball, my freshman year, Arizona State beat us, I think 34-2 my freshman year.
were we ever like 11-0 just for a short period of time? #1.
My fresh, it was a tough year for. We didn't go to the playoffs or the tournament at all.
Well, this interview has proved to me that my memory is horrendous. So I'll have to. So whoever's listening out there, don't believe anything I say because I'm probably making this whole thing up. But anyway, so this guy who was in this Hertz Renovan, we just started chatting, and maybe around the 45-minute mark, hey, where'd you go to college? I went to Stanford. Oh, I went to Stanford. Oh, I worked at the radio station. I was sports director of KZSU. Oh, 5 years before you, I was the sports director of KZSU. And that was Rich Domich. And he was the producer of the World Series film. And so that was the first game of I don't know how many games they played that year in the World Series, but 5, 6, 7, I don't know. And Damo said, we saw each other every day for about a week, and he said, why don't you come to New York? I'll try to get you a job at Major League Baseball Productions, and you can sleep on my couch while you're interviewing. Sure enough, I slept on his couch. He lived with 2 other guys, Upper West Side of Manhattan. And while I was there, one of his roommates, who was also a Stanford guy, who worked at CBS, moved out literally while I was there. So not only did Damo, that was his nickname, not only did he get me a job at Major League Baseball Productions, but I got an apartment all in one shot. And it was all because I was late accidentally to go be a runner for $30 a day. But then I did end up getting up into the press box for the rest of the World Series. But anyway, so then I worked for Major League Baseball for 3 years. It was my dream job. I had a locker room pass, press box pass for all the American League and National League games, stadiums. Worked on This Week in Baseball radio with Mel Allen, New York Yankees broadcaster. He was up in years at that time. He was in his early 70s, I think, but he was obviously a legend. So that was cool. And then I worked for Sports Channel. They were kind of the ESPN of New York City. They were owned by the Dolan family. The Steinbrenners owned the Yes Network. They were the competitors. So we created a wraparound show around the Islanders, Nets, Jets, and Mets. Those are the games that they broadcasted. So that was a lot of fun. And then I worked for Ogilvy in New York. I was a TV producer. I was the associate producer of a Super Bowl commercial with Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. That was a lot of fun. Loved. So I was always. So I like I didn't make the Stanford baseball team. I enjoyed sports television for a long, long time.
But
But then,
you did put together this amazing softball team. And remember in New York City that
oh,
you,
okay. You want me to tell that story? All
yeah,
right. So,
we had DB Sweeney.
oh, yeah. You threw me that bait at the beginning. And yeah, he went by Danny at the time because he was not a famous um, actor at the time. But a better story, though, Mike, is that you were going to Columbia to get your master's in public policy, and I was telling my friends who were on this team. Actually, the name of our team was the Skins, and it was not the non-politically correct name. It was actually, even though our colors were orange, it was about skins that leather skins. The manager of our team, his father ran a tanning company or something for leather skins, and everybody thought it was the non-politically correct name, but it was really about leather skins. But anyway, I tried to convince you to come on the team, and I told all my friends that I had this future Hall of Fame Stanford baseball and football player. And you said, I remember what you said. You said, Tom, I've been using various other muscles since I can remember. I'm going to use another muscle now, and so thanks, but no thanks. Not interested. But there was a particular person in your life at that time that really kind of wanted you out of the house, I guess, occasionally at least. And so you were convinced to come play with us. And I do have a picture of that probably in my other room there of us playing softball. But anyway, did I tell the story okay?
You know, I just, again, my memory, I just remember having so much fun running around Central Park. There was a park in Central Park.
See, your memory is bad because we never played in Central Park.
Really?
We played at DeWitt Clinton Field at 53rd and 11th. We played in the Lower East Side under the Manhattan Bridge, where a home run was in the East River,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera. But the ball was too slow for you, Mike. Even though it was fast pitch, it was not 95. So
Well,
anyway,
I just remember, and I remember that's when I met DB Sweeney, and he said you're right, he was Danny Sweeney, and he said, oh, I'm an actor, and he loved baseball, he loved sports, and then years later, I'm watching that movie 8 Men Out about the Chicago Black Sox, and
White
he's playing shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, so it was the Chicago White Sox, 1909, 1919. Again, old people doing a podcast. Our memories are so bad. People are laughing at us here. But yeah, he played minor league baseball on that Minnesota team, that independent league where Darryl Strawberry played for a short period of time. And he had to learn to hit left-handed, but he was a great athlete. So he jumped from never playing college baseball to playing professional baseball and switching from a natural right-hander to a left-hander against professional hitters just so that he could be shoeless Joe Jackson, who's a lefty, in the movie. Yeah, he was a great athlete.
Yeah, and a great guy. And by the way, I'm gonna just to let you know, I'm gonna send this recording to DB because I know he'd love to see you. So I'm gonna send it to him.
Excellent.
So okay, so you amazing experience. Chet 40 and being able to rub elbows with Howard Cosell and probably Rune Arledge and all these famous names. So how do you then transition? What do you do after that? Because what I would see you'd be running ABC Sports.
That's funny. So I decided I didn't want to spend my entire life in baseball, even though I you know, I still love baseball, obviously. Um, but I don't know. I just kind of moved on, just kind of one thing after another. Um, but I love TV production. That's kind of what I realized I really loved, of some kind. And so after I left Sports Channel, I went to Ogilvy, and you know, the production values are a little higher, the budgets are a little higher. I did a Super Bowl commercial for American Express. I did some commercials for AT&T, and I hired this TV production company out in Los Angeles called Squeak Pictures. And it turns out that the woman who ran the place, who owned it, Pam Tarr, Tarr, actually went to Stanford a few years before me. And we kind of hit it off business wise. And we shot these AT&T commercials. And then at the end of it, I said, hey, you don't have a New York office. What would you be interested in me starting your New York office? I'll leave Ogilvy and start it for you. And she said, well, put a proposal together. So I did. And I I doubled my salary from a whopping 30,000 to a whopping 60,000. And that's when I became an entrepreneur. Was running the East Coast office of this production company. And that's when I realized how little I knew about business. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife of many, many years, also a Stanford alum, said, hey, have you ever considered going back to business school? And I said, in fact, no, I have not. I'd been a creative for 10 years and just had no interest in the business side. But I realized I needed to understand business better because I'd never been immersed in it. And I was trying to be the head of the New York office, and I just realized I needed to understand business. So I needed a crash course in business. So at age of 32, I surprised even myself. I got into Harvard Business School, and so I went away to business school for 2 years. And in my essay, oh wow, I forgot about this. I mean, it may not be true because 9 out of 10 things I've said today are not actually true, but I think this one's true. I can't find the floppy disk to prove it, but I wrote an essay. One of my 8 or so essays at Harvard for Harvard Business School admissions was about my softball team, the Skins. And it was, I ran it by the concept by a fellow HBS grad. And I said, hey, I got this really potentially bad idea. That I want to write one of my 8 essays about my softball team, because I became the player manager, and I was like, man, it's so it has something to do with business. It has something to do with managing people. It is training me to be a manager, and manage people. And dealing with egos, people that think they should be batting cleanup, but they really should be batting 7th or 8th. They probably shouldn't even be starting, but they have such an ego. These are the greatest guys in the world. So I love the Skins. But I just had to, making sure people showed up, but mostly it was the personalities. We had a lot of really awesome personalities. And so I wrote this essay, and I actually think it was really good. And I wish I had it. But anyway, so I went to Harvard Business School, and while I was at Harvard Business School, I met Ted Leonsis, who owns the Wizards and the Capitals, but at the time he did not. He had just sold his company to AOL. I had no interest in listening to this guy. He was speaking at the High Tech Club or some sort of club like that. And a friend of mine had to convince me to come listen to this guy. I was like, AOL, a bunch of typewriter type. This is not interesting. Not a good company, but sure, if you're telling me he's going to be good, I'll come. And he blew me away. He was so inspiring, such a cool guy. I would go to the end of the earth for this guy. I was thinking to myself. So everybody felt the same way who was listening to him. We all went down to the well to talk to him. And he said, oh, this is so cool. I'm at Harvard Business School. You guys must have resumes. Give me your resume. So we all pulled them out of our backpacks and handed them to him. And he starts looking at them. And he looked at mine and he said, whose is this? He goes, I said, mine. He goes, you're hired. And I was like, what? And he wasn't actually kidding. I thought he was kidding, but he gave me his home phone number. And it was because I had this TV production background, and combined with business. And that's what most of my essays were about. The reason I wanted to go back and get an MBA was because I knew nothing about business, but I wanted to run my own company someday that combines some sort of entertainment or information based product or service with business. And so he hired me, and that's the whole reason I'm here in my man cave in Washington, D.C. With my wife and 2 kids, because I met Ted Leonsis that day. So actually, that's 2 stories, Mike, where I guess I would say to my students, my kids, whoever would ever listen to me, you got to be bold, and you got to, that's what networking is all about. You have to like get off your butt and go be brave enough to just talk to total strangers, and good things can happen. Just going to talk to Damo in that Hertz Renovan turned my whole life around, and ended up spending 10 years in New York City. I met my wife there as a result, and then met Ted Leonsis because I just went up to talk to him after a class, and I ended up in Washington, D.C. So those are good lessons.
And wow, what an amazing journey you had. And this is AOL, which is, you've got mail, right? AOL?
That's correct.
At the beginning. I mean, this is the beginning of the beginning, right?
Yeah. So I remember when I first overheard somebody on a train. My job between my 2 years of business school, the summer between my 2 years of business school, was at Viacom New Media in New York. So I would commute from Boston to New York every Sunday night or whenever it was. And I heard some guy say email, and I had no idea what he was talking about. This was 1994. And yeah, it was the beginning of the internet. So I got a job at AOL, which was awesome because it really combined all the mediums I'd ever worked at. I worked at the local TV station that did the Cardinals when I was in high school, KZSU, the high school newspaper. I was a sports editor, ABC Sports on the weekends, Major League Baseball. So TV, radio, print, and that's what the internet was. It brought all the mediums together. And I thought it was cool that it was the ground floor of a fairly new company at the time, and a new industry, which was exciting to me. So yeah, but then all of my friends started becoming CEOs of companies, and I was like, I need to do that before this passes me by. So I did end up meeting some people, and I became CEO of a online auction company that did auctions for the U.S. government and local governments and state governments. We raised 10 million bucks. It went okay. Didn't really take off like a rocket ship or anything. I left after about 2.5 years. Great experience, though. Great group of people. And then I actually started something with somebody that I met. So I became co-founder of this company, and we pivoted twice, no, 3 or 4 times. Started off as an email billing company, and then it turned into an electronic billing company that was sold to MasterCard in 2019. An 18-year overnight success. I was only there for 7 years and was diluted like crazy over 18 years. So I'm sitting here in my man cave instead of my castle or my island. But no, it was a great experience, and gives me a lot of stories to tell when I'm in front of the classroom. But also, I see that you have my nonprofit behind you, and it's been sitting there. And
yes,
people,
yes.
people are probably wondering what is that, right?
Well, I'm excited to as you talk about how you worked in the sports field, and then AOL, which is truly, I mean, I remember that the early years in the early 90s, you've got mail, and you'd hear this, you connect to the internet. It was
Your 14.4 modem. Your 14.
Yeah, it was just an amazing time. And, there's probably a lot of young people out there listening. And this is an example for those of you that are trying to learn from Tom's amazing journey, that, don't get frustrated if something happens and you get off track, because it leads to so many other amazing opportunities. And Tom, you had these business experiences, and then what I want to do is get into academia and then talk about CONNECTdmv. And I will say this, the exciting thing for me to hear about your mission with CONNECTdmv. And by the way, when I heard DMV, I was thinking, oh no, that I don't want I don't want to go to the, get my car registered.
Vehicle.
But then I looked it up, and it's, District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. So
It's
dummy Mike,
it's a DC thing. Everybody
I
around
got you.
here
I
knows
understand.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
I learned
Wherever
that.
you are, they like
I did. But here's the thing that I just want to kind of prompt you. I'm excited about what you're doing with Connectdmv, and if you could talk about your academic background as well. But the reason is one of my heroes is Dr. Martin Luther King, and I was listening to Dr. King's just last night, his last sermon before he was assassinated, and Dr. King, if he were alive today, he would be right there with you, Tom, because that's what Connectdmv. Dr. King was bringing people together, whether you were Black, Asian, Latino, white, whatever, bringing people together. And so what you're doing, I just have such a passion. And if there's anything I can do to help connect DMV with anyone, just please let me know. So take it away, Tom. Thank you.
Oh, well, yeah. So I was the only white kid on my little league team for like 7 years, and I realized that as a white kid, I was getting kind of a behind the scenes look that not a lot of white kids got, and most cities and states, most of America is very segregated. And so, we don't really understand each other that well. The different races don't, different classes don't, et cetera. And so it was kind of in the back of my mind for a long time, like that really shaped my experience. And then the sixth grade school I went to was about 70% African American. And so that was what I was growing up with. And then I went to almost all white high school, and it was very, very segregated, and we didn't know each other that well. And like maybe you were in math class or played sports with a kid that had different color skin as yours, but did we ever go home to see what their lives were like? Did they ever come to our house, see what our lives were like? Um, and it wasn't just a money thing, because trust me, there were a lot of wealthy African Americans and poor white folks. But it was just like no one talked to each other as like they could. And so many years later, my kids are at the fancy Sidwell Friends High School where the Obama girls went. We went there first, by the way. And I realized that not a lot had changed in 40 years. It was very segregated. I mean, Sidwell Friends is very progressive. I think technically there are more non-white folks there than white folks, which is very cool as far as I'm concerned. But still, fairly segregated. And so my partner is an African American woman named Patricia Potts, and we got together and said, we need to do something on this front. And it was similar to my high school, except that the parents knew that there was a problem, and they were open-minded to trying to fix the problem, or at least work on it. I don't know if it'll ever be fixed. I actually think it's similar to my folks, the Jewish people and the Palestinians. Like, that is a problem in the Middle East that will probably never be settled or taken care of. And I think race relations, unfortunately, are, it's a life, not just a lifelong thing. It'll probably be going on forever and ever, unfortunately. So as an entrepreneur, and now a social entrepreneur, our DNA is such that we see a problem and we want to fix it, and we think we can fix it. So Patricia and I started Connectdmv 5 years ago, and I'm going to read the mission off of our website. It says, to help close the opportunity gap for students and families of color at local independent schools by bringing the DMV community together to empower students, create opportunity, build understanding, and activate change. And so what you have behind you is the top of the new website, which says creating opportunity, connecting us all. And I'm involved in the creating opportunity part as a white ally, but the connecting us all part is kind of we added that fairly now. Well, we've added that about 2 years in, because I was like, we're kind of missing the point here. Part of the point of this nonprofit is to the third pillar of our mission statement, which is creating understanding. So the connecting us all, creating understanding, having us all just kind of get to know each other a little bit. And the more we get to know each other, the more we can all be helpful. And it's totally reciprocal, right? It's not like, it's not white people helping black people. It's not that. It's us all working, just like Martin Luther King said. And I almost put a Martin Luther King quote on the cover, on the homepage, because he talks about our lives being intertwined, and and actually Malcolm X said the same thing. There were quotes about how we all have to understand each other, and that this is a big problem that we should all be working on. And so I actually put a different but sort of similar quote from a Sidwell Friends graduate who wrote a book called Letters to My White Male Friends. And his name is Dax Ross. And his quote, which is on our website, is, "We have to see this endeavor as essential, not mandatory, as a prerequisite to our collective destiny." So it's very Martin Luther King-like, and even actually Malcolm X-like. But I really believe in it, and I'm hoping that teaching and working on my nonprofit will take me off into my latter years here. So I feel very, very strongly about both of them. And the social entrepreneurship venture, CONNECTdmv, is not probably, it's definitely more important to me than any for-profit entrepreneurship venture I've ever worked on.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, you mentioned the Palestinians and the Israelis, and it's probably the North Koreans and the South Koreans, and there's all over all over the world. I mean, in South Africa, you have this, it doesn't matter. There's racism all over, and it comes down to understanding. And one of the things that you and I have in common, sports actually brings people together. I mean, I basically, I see of myself as colorblind. I mean, because I played with a lot of the great players that I played with were African Americans, and I realized, hey, they have just the same dreams and aspirations and struggles that we all do. And so I just I think what you're doing, Tom, with CONNECTdmv is, as you said, it's a great mission, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And hopefully, we put down here the little ticker tape.
Yeah, look at that. That's cool.
Yeah, we got for more information, go to connectdmv.org. And Tom, one of the things we do on the dot is, we learn about your background and what you're doing today, and you get the last word. You can talk as long as you want about what's going on in the future. I mean, we live in a time right now with things, with obviously the January 6th commission going on, the war in the Ukraine, inflation, and all these things. And you are Stanford undergrad, Harvard MBA, professor at American University. Is there a message that you want to give, and just talk about whatever you want to talk about? And you take it away, and because you get the last word. So thank you, Tom, again for coming on the dot. We love you, brother.
Love you too, Mike. Thank you. Boy, I guess I really didn't prepare for that one. But I don't know. I just think that, with all this craziness going on, and there's always some craziness going on, right? The Vietnam War, or threat of nuclear holocaust, nuclear war with Russia back when we were growing up. Like, there's always something. And it gives me, I guess it makes me scared a little bit and COVID makes me scared for kids that are going through it right now. I actually think my kids are relatively well adjusted and not overly negatively affected by all the bad stuff going on in the world right now. I don't know how they can do that, but I know there's a lot of uh, mental illness and problems that kids, especially teenagers, are having. I'm reading a lot about that, and it totally makes sense. Um, so how do you avoid that, or how do you either? I don't think you should avoid the problems of the world. My daughter is a environmental studies major, and I think she's going to do great things for the world, and on and so not she's not going to avoid things. And so I think, how do you spin this huge negative going on in our world into a positive? Hopefully, a lot of people will be inspired by this, and I always tell my students that um, um, our kids don't listen to us. Why should they? I didn't listen to my parents after a certain age. So if we only have, a short period of time, or a small window to kind of say just one thing maybe to our kids, to that we would like them to remember, I would say it's probably try to take control of your own life rather than let life control you. Because I think it's very, very easy to become like our age and have been just kind of going along an easy path, and not really tapping into ourselves, and doing the things that inspire us and we're passionate about. So, I think I have this kind of half joke. I even have a PowerPoint slide about it in my classes, especially my entrepreneurship class, at the start, where I say, on the East Coast, if you get fired, or lose, you need a new job or whatever, you run back to your computer and you create your resume, because you have to go on Indeed.com or wherever and try to get a job because you need a resume. On the West Coast, again, this is all hyperbole and stereotypical, but it's trying to make a point. In Silicon Valley, especially, you run back to your computer and you create your business plan, because you don't need somebody to tell you you're good enough for a job. Just create your own company or create your own job. And so I really feel like that's really, really important, to try to control your own life rather than let life control you. So I hope that through all this bad stuff that's going on out there, there are a lot of people who have this sort of entrepreneurial spirit or can-do spirit, or I see all these problems and I can, at least in a small way, try to solve something. And so I think that's going to happen. American University, actually, one of our themes is become a change maker. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm also a big believer in purpose and profit going together. And that also is a theme of our business school. So I think they have to go together. You shouldn't just go out there because you want to make tons and tons of money. I don't know how satisfying that is. But I do think it's satisfying if you can tap into your passion, combine it with what you're good at, what you like, and try to solve some problems out there. So I am hopeful, but there are a lot of issues out there right now. So I hope that people try to not get bogged down by that, and stay positive, and glasses half full. The other thing I do want to say, that if somebody were to say, Tom, what's the meaning of life, or how do you want to spend the rest of your time, besides doing something you're passionate about and all that stuff. Not to sound like some Buddhist wannabe, but I do believe in mindfulness. I do believe in being in the moment. And I said to somebody once, I said, yeah, so every day when I wake up, I try to, not that I'm successful at it, but my goal every day is to be as mindful as possible, to be as in the moment as possible. And this guy said to me, he said, oh, well, that's a lifelong endeavor. And it really is, because we may never achieve it. Thich Nhat Hanh writes a lot of great books about it. But I think, we can't control things. We can't solve all the problems. Though I think we should try to solve a few problems here and there. like Mother Teresa said, just solve a small problem and try to be mindful. And to me, that's what it's all about. What do you think, Mike? What's your theory of life? I know you think about it. You're a deep thinker. Not that I'm a deep thinker, but you think about deep things.
Be the change that you want to see in the world.
There we go. I like that.
And
What kind of books are you reading, Mike? What kind of, like, on maybe on these types of subjects?
well, I was inspired by the first lady, Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife, former wife, the first lady of California.
Fiverr.
Yes, Maria Shriver. And she wrote, I like to read, she writes every week or couple weeks, she writes wonderful a newsletter. And she sent a link to a guy named Ram Dass.
I know who he is. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, Ram Dass was at Harvard when Timothy Leary was there. And so I think what you're saying about the Buddhist and the Ram Dass, I think we really need to, and if all of us can just do a little bit, make a little bit of difference and be mindful, that's a great, that's a great lectures and lesson that you're teaching all of us, Professor Tom. So thank you.
Well, so my 25th reunion at Harvard Business School was 2 weekends ago, and the theme of the weekend was not, puffing out your chest and, oh, I made so much money in life and all that sort of stuff. It was about just living a good life and helping people. And as the Dalai Lama would say, it's the key to life is altruism, compassion, helping people. And I just thought it was interesting that Harvard Business School, of all, a lot of people don't, that just turns their stomach to think of Harvard Business School. Oh, it's all about making money. But that was not their theme. Their theme was altruism and that sort of thing. So I think I hope that most people kind of hop onto that bandwagon if they're not already. I know for a lot of people, religion gives them that grounding, and that gets them off on that type of thinking early on. So whatever does it for you. But I think a lot of people, myself included, maybe have come to this a little bit later in life. Me for like the last 25 years, and so I'm glad at least it happened, right? And now I've been focused on it for about 25 years or so. So, and I'm sure you think about this all the time, Mike. You're trying to. We're all trying. It's like a Woody Allen movie, right? If you ever watched, now you can't even talk about Woody Allen because he's been canceled. But his movies in his early days, before we knew about his personal life, it was just so. If you look at his movies, almost every single one of his movies was about, secretly, quietly, was about the meaning of life. And I also just read another Jewish author, Saul Bellow. I just read Seize the Day. I just finished it 2 days ago. And Woody Allen's movies, Saul Bellow, just so many people, people who are not considered religious, or Buddhist for sure, they come to the conclusion that the Woody Allen, the key was being in the moment and appreciating the small little moments. So I appreciate being here with you, Mike, because I have always appreciated our friendship. I think it's so cool that we've stayed friends, and with Jim Grunberg and a bunch of other people, and that's what it's all about, man.
It really is. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Don't hang up, because I'm just going to hit the end the broadcast button. And maybe someday, Tom, I was thinking maybe you can be the producer for On the Dot, because I'm trying to do everything, and I can't do it all.
Well, I am creating for CONNECTdmv. The last 2 out of 3 summers, I've taught social entrepreneurship, and you could almost call it activism, to students. And I teach strategy, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and the intro to business. I teach freshmen, seniors, MBAs, and I even taught naval officers this last semester strategy. But the last 2 out of 3 summers, we have this program called Projects for Change, and it was right after George Floyd got murdered. I met all these young people, and they had this pent up anger and anxiety, and I said, so after you march on 14th Street and after you post on Instagram and leave this sit-in in front of National Cathedral, like, what are you going to do? And they didn't know. So I started Projects for Change, which teaches them how to be social entrepreneurs. And the Gates Foundation is on the final panel and listens to their pitches, and Ashoka and Calvert Investments and a bunch of other people that are involved in these sort of things. And so I just this summer we're starting Podcasts for Change, because I have a friend at the Kimsey Foundation, and they have a podcast studio right above Black Lives Matter plaza. You can literally see the letters from the podcast studio. So we're going to try to find students, high schoolers, who want to talk about social justice, racial justice, or any sorts of issues, and either be a guest on a podcast if that's kind of all they have time for, or start their own podcast. But I know that OnTheDot has got to take up a lot of time. So depending on what you're offering me, man, maybe that elixir or something that we were talking about, maybe we can become podcast partners.
I would be honored to be a podcast partner with you. And I just put down, is that the correct link, projectsforchange.org?
No, just keep it at CONNECTdmv and then click on Projects for Change. It doesn't have its own URL.
Oh, okay. So I was just promoting. Okay, let me go to let's see here. Just make sure CONNECTdmv. There we go. So CONNECTdmv, and that can get them to Projects for Change.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Podcasts for Change.
Yeah, we're just starting that, so you won't see that up there, but we're gonna, so it's, that's why I like teaching so much, is I just love, I was a baseball coach as well, and with my son and my daughter too. My daughter plays D3 field hockey, though I don't know field hockey, so I wasn't really her coach, but we've been involved in sports for so much in my family. And you're right. It's such a great place to mix with people that are not like you, and such an awesome, and you're all trying to achieve the same thing together. But also just listening to young people, just like getting them one-on-one or in a group, and just listening to how smart they are and how their ideas are just amazing. It keeps you young. So Mike, you'd be a good teacher. I would recommend to anybody, as my daughter said, hey Dad, teaching, that's a really good job for an old person. She did say that to me, the mouths of babes. And so a friend of mine from Stanford, Carter Cast, is at Northwestern, and I was actually just reading his book last night. Mike Riley is a friend of mine, Stanford friend of mine, runs the executive ed program at Berkeley. I do know quite a few people who have decided to become either adjuncts or get involved with students. So it's giving back, and it's really just a lot of fun. I mean, if it was just giving back and it was no fun, we wouldn't be doing it. But it's just fun working with young people. It's awesome.
It's inspirational, and it gives us hope, because the young people that are out there, we want to create a better world for them, and they, that's what it's. And as you mentioned earlier, the greatest gratification is when you're going to helping another person, and you're certainly doing that, Tom, with your teaching, with setting up these nonprofit organizations, and again, CONNECTdmv, bringing people from all different cultures together in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia area, and that's creating a ripple all around the world. So, thank you so much for being on the dot. And again, I'm going to let you get the last word, but don't hang up, because I'm just going to you get the last word, and then I'm going to hit end the broadcast. So I'm going to.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to call you from the car though, because I got to pick up my daughter at her nonprofit.
Okay.
I'm going to call you from the car because I'm supposed to be there right now.
Okay. Call me from the
You know what
car.
I'm really looking forward to doing, Mike? I'm looking forward to seeing what you said in the first 7 minutes. Now, I was only 1 minute late, by the way, but then I saw the recording and it said like you'd been on for 7 minutes. So what the heck did you talk about for 7 minutes? Leave it a mystery because I want to watch the start of the show.
Thank you, brother. We love you.
All right, bro. I love you too, Mike. I'll call you from the car.
Talk with you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.